Welcome back to In with the Old and Out with the New. Today, the big question is, what do you need? Not what do you want, not do what you want your neighbors to see in, not the four-wheel drive you're never going to use. Uh, I can go on and on and on, but and I'm just as bad as anybody else buying stuff I don't need. But we're talking about doing this and saving money. So let's concentrate on what we need. If you need front wheel drive, these are things that hardly anybody needs four wheel drive. I mean, some people do. I think, contractors that have to go off road and stuff, they need it. Some other people do, different reasons. But in the snow, a front wheel drive vehicle will literally get around as well. I mean, maybe 10% worse, but a regular front wheel drive car will get through the snow unbelievably with good tires on it. So while you may think you need four wheel drive, a lot of times you don't. And there's some kind of neat all wheel drive cars out there, Subarus. There's issues with them that you need to make sure have been done. No, I mean, you're going to find that with most cars, but there are all-wheel drive cars out there too that you can get budget with a tight budget. Fuel economy is another big one because when you go to these older cars, you'll find, especially with the cars, that a lot of the V6 models get right about the same mileage as the four-cylinder models. And I noticed this a long time ago. And it's usually with older vehicles. They're four cylinders. They weren't turbocharged or anything else. So they were usually bigger four cylinders. I had a Mercury Mystique I bought. That's a good example of a car that has a really bad reputation for being a pile of crap. I had it 2 years, never did a thing to it. I bought it off an old woman. She gave me a manila folder full of everything she did to it over the years. And I did one repair to it in those 2 years and 30,000 miles. Never had a problem. Actually, a great car. And I sold it for exactly what I paid for it. That was before COVID. So it seemed like things were a little bit easier then with the used vehicles. But shortly after, I got like 25 miles to the gallon in that Mystique. I got off track. I bought a 91 Olds 98, 3.8 V6. Back then, they were giving those cars away. Now they got a little bit of a following because everybody's found out the 3.8 V6 basically runs forever if it's taken care of. If it's not taken care of, it won't. And we're seeing that gen of those cars come through now. People that bought them because they were cheap and they said, oh yeah, it's a good engine, so they just don't do anything to it, change oil or anything. They just drive them until they start knocking or something. And you can get away with it with one of them a little longer than you can most vehicles, but they still need maintenance. Anyway, I bought that 91 Olds 98, and that sucker on the road would get 28 miles at a gallon. 3.8 V6. Car was like a luxury car inside. It wasn't a big luxury car. It was the new front wheel drive ones, but fully loaded inside, comfortable, smooth. The Mystique was a good car. Mechanically, never gave me a lick of trouble, but that Olds was like 10 times the car and got more fuel mileage with a V6. A lot more power. The Mystique was kind of slow. Anyway, I got off on a long story about, picking out cars. Another thing, one reason I bought that Mystique is because this is back in my Craigslist days. I would watch Craigslist, and I just say, well, if I find something really cheap, I'll buy it. I wasn't even really looking for a car. And I saw this Mystique on there $1,400 bucks. And it looked really good in the pictures. I'm like, man, that car looks like it's well taken care of. That caught my eye right away. Yeah, but I had Mystique. I read a little bit about them. Transmissions are crap. Everything's crap on them, And I was like, maybe not. And I'd look, another week would go by, and there it is again. I'm like, they're not selling it. And about another week went by. I said, man, I better go look at that thing. I said, nobody's buying it. It's cheap. I'm going to go see what's going on. And the lady told me, there's nothing wrong with it. Take it, drive it. I drove it. It seemed to operate just the way it's supposed to. It was real tight, ran smooth, shifted good, looked it over, and, no rust. I'm like, I'll give you $1,000. Okay, took $1,000, just like that. Like I said, it's pre-COVID. That car would probably go for $2,500 now. I mean, it had, if I remember right, $110,000 when I bought it. And it was a good car, but it was a car nobody wanted. So I got it cheap. And that's where I'm going with this. If it doesn't matter to you, like, for a while there, regular cab trucks, they couldn't give them away. Now people are starting, because there's not as many around. So now, it seems a little different. But for a while, they couldn't give them away. That goes back to one of my new car buying deals. I bought a new 2015 GMC Sierra, regular cab, short bed, plain Jane truck, but it was black instead of white like most of them. MSRP was right at $30,000, 2015. And I had it marked down to 19 in the lot. And I'm like, damn, that's pretty cheap for a brand new pickup. And I went over there. Yeah, it was plain Jane, but plain Jane in 2015 meant it had air conditioning. It had a nice stereo. That was plain Jane. Back when I was a kid, plain Jane meant no power steering, no power brakes. That's changed. Anyway, I bought it, $19,000. And I drove it 3 years and 36,000 miles and sold it for $19,000. So that was a one new car deal that actually worked out real nice. But I kept it like a brand new truck the whole time. I never drove it in bad weather or anything. So that's part of that story. So buying a car with a bad rep that has good ownership, like when I say good ownership, 1 or 2 or maybe 3 owners, not 8. The more owners you got, the more chances you got to. But a car with a bad rep, with maintenance records, driven by an older person, somebody that just drove it nice and simple and easy and didn't beat on it, hopefully not a lot of city driving, is actually better than one of your great cars. And I'll mention a couple because I think most people that are even looking at cars know these are some of the best ones. The Panther platform Fords and Mercuries, the Crown Vics and the Marquis, 300,000 mile cars. What people don't know, though, they do require maintenance. You'll do a front end at 100, probably an intake at 150. They still require things, but their bones are better than probably 80% of the cars on the road. Buick LeSabres, Olds 98, like I was talking about, with the 3.8, another one. They have their maintenance. They got to be done, but you get 300,000. And, as long as you do that maintenance. But you get one of those driven by, a teenager, and I know how I was as a teen. I wouldn't want anything I had when I was a teenager. But anyway, teenager, never change the oil. Of course, most teenagers probably do change their oil compared to grown-ups, but let's just say no maintenance, driven hard. Make it simple. I would rather have the car with the bad rep because the other one's probably going to have a bad rep by the time you get it. Anyway, these are just some simple things to look at. And you got to ask yourself and be completely honest, what do you need? Anyway, I hope these channels are doing somebody some good. I think I got some good ideas out there. I'm going to have another video soon to carry on. I think we'll go over cars a little more, different vehicles. We kind of just poking in there to see what people need, get that in everybody's brain. And then you can kind of see where those cars are falling in price-wise. Anyway, subscribe if you want to see more, and thank you for watching.